Final Fantasy Adventure was actually one of the very first action RPGs that I ever had the pleasure of playing, and nowadays it might be kind of forgotten, especially because it was released back on the original Game Boy in 1990. Except that there is one fact that really does save it from obscurity. Even though it's called Final Fantasy Adventure, it's actually the first entry in the Mana series. And I do know that a lot of people do like to kind of go back in time and see where these illustrious series started off, and it was also included in the Switch's collection of Mana 2. However, all that being said, it really can be kind of hard for like a modern gamer to go back and really get used to these retro games that I grew up on. Thankfully though, I've played the game like a million times over these 30 plus years that it's been out, and here are 5 hints and tips that I have to share with y'all that will help you start exploring that history of the Mana series. First up, let's talk levels. With each level that you gain, you have a choice between one of 4 stat modifiers. Power, which increases your strength, Magic, which increases your magical attack power as well as MP, Will, which increases the will gauge, and, we'll get into that in a moment, and also Stamina, which increases your HP and defense. Whenever you choose Power, not only will that go up by 2, but then your Stamina and Will also go up by 1. Conversely though, whenever you choose Magic, that will go up by 2, while Stamina and Will each go up by 1. With Will, that'll go up by 2, while then your Stamina and Magic will each go up by 1, and then finally, if you choose Stamina, that'll go up by 2, while Will and Power goes up by 1. So with all that being said, you will see that Stamina and Will always level up. So your real choice here is between Power and Magic. But before you decide to choose a physical or magical build, let me tell you a little bit about how Stamina and Will also work. Number 2, Stamina is kind of overpowered. Here's the deal. All 4 of these stats were not created equally. While Power and Magic increase your direct damage potential, Stamina is really the only parameter that increases your defense besides, armor. And I think that the game developers just kind of assumed that most people would focus on attack power, and therefore didn't give much thought to defense. So they just kind of balanced the game as if you never put a single point into Stamina, and you only chose Power with every single level up. Because of that, if you instead choose to put a bunch of points into Stamina at the very beginning of the game, you're going to be like invincible. And not only that, your HP increases are directly proportional to your Stamina. So the sooner that you get a high Stamina count, the more HP that you'll have at the end of the game. So what I would suggest doing is loading up on Stamina in your first few levels so that you have a huge HP pool by the end of the game. And then from there, it really is your choice as to where to put the points, in physical or magical. Next up, let's talk about that Will stat. This one is unique. On the bottom of your screen, you're going to see a long bar which slowly rises as you wander around. Once you attack or you cast a spell, it's going to get set back to 1. However, whenever it's at max, you'll be able to do a limit break with your weapons, and they change depending on the type of weapon that you have equipped. The flail will go an extra space longer, you can shoot your sword across the screen, throw an axe as well as your spear, or you can have the sickle go out twice as long. Then, each limit break attack will also deal twice as much damage as a normal attack, but a little known fact is that if you cast a magical spell with a full will gauge, that spell will deal 4 times as much damage as it normally would, which actually makes like a magical build pretty freaking powerful. So if you want a different playstyle, you can easily pump points into Magic to get tons of MP to increase that fire spell, and then just kind of like sit in a corner and cast the homing missile and blast the ever-loving crap out of the enemies with 4 times as powerful magic. It's kind of pretty sweet. Number 4, old school goodness. Final Fantasy Adventure borrows a lot of old school elements from the very first Zelda. Remember going into dungeons and having to collect keys and use bombs to blow up walls? And if you didn't have enough bombs and keys, you had to leave and go buy some? Well, it's the same thing here. Except instead of bombs, you have matics, and keys have to be purchased. If you're lucky, you might get them as a treasure drop, but that is rare. So always have a full set of keys on you, as well as a full set of matics too. Well, in the first Zelda, you kind of had to guess where the bombable walls were. Here, you can strike the walls with your weapon, and if it makes like a little ringing sound, then it can be knocked down by a Maddox. Much later on in the game though, once you do get the Morning Star, you can use that to instead break down the walls. So then you can clear up inventory space because you don't need the Maddox, but keys will always be mandatory. And finally, number 5, let's talk about the magic spells. Fire is your basic attack magic, and you should be using that one pretty much all the time. It's super cheap, and it's a homing missile. Ice is really only used to solve puzzles, and you can fire an icicle to freeze an enemy and then push them onto the switch to activate doors and stairs. Cure is your healing spell, and Sleep is just amazing. It targets every single enemy on the screen and pretty much stuns them with a really high success rate, so you can then go hog wild and slaughter them. Heal, though, is bugged. It's supposed to heal your status ailments, which it does, but it also reduces your defense to 0. So unless you go into the menu screen to reset it, you'll get eviscerated after you use it. Nuke and Lit are both pretty powerful attack spells, but they just shoot straight ahead and they cost a ton of MP, so I wouldn't bother. Just use Fire. It always gets the job done. So that's it for 5 hints and tips about Final Fantasy Adventure. What hints and tips do you have to share about the game? I'd love to know. Let's get a discussion going on here, and let's all talk and chat about it. I would love to hear what you have to say. And if you like what I do on the channel, please head on over to the Patreon to sign up for early access to my videos and behind-the-scenes photographs. The link to it is over in the video description. And as always, please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good day.